Kia ora, good evening. The decision on the two remaining uncalled holdco share options has been delayed until the 20th of November at the latest. In an often intense debate today, the 7 city councillors that are able to vote because of no conflict of interest on the uncalled share issue have voted for a delay for further consultation and a councillor workshop on the holdco options. First term councillor Karen Arnold is pleased with the outcome of today's extraordinary council meeting.
I think it was just the timing of the documentation really coming to us. I received it at the time that the meeting started. That's the document that was going out for public consultation with the different options in it. It had a recommendation or a preferred option listed in it, and it said that council preferred it, option 3. We hadn't even discussed it, and so I felt as though we were being railroaded into something, and there was a perception from the public that we had chosen something when in actual fact we hadn't even discussed it.
Are you happy with this outcome, that no decision has to be made until the 20th of November, so there will be further consultation and in fact councillors may be engaged in a workshop?
I'm delighted in the outcome, and the thing that delights me is that I challenged the quality of the information that councillors had been provided with and the public had been provided with. And I've said that I've harped on about it for more than a year, but we cannot make good decisions on behalf of the city if we do not have good, robust information. And I'm happy to test and challenge any information that I can so that I can be properly informed and do the best. I just think it's just making it clear that putting together documents and writing reports is simply not enough. If you want the city to engage and trust in the council process and you want councillors to do the best that they can, then there's an obligation on the people providing the information to do it properly. It's not for us to go off and do our own investigations and ask questions and clarify things. That should be put to us, because that's where the trust issue comes in. We have to trust the information that we're given, and if we can test it and challenge it and find out that things have been omitted or aren't clear, then that's when the whole system breaks down.
Councillor Lewis made multiple points about the apathy of the public. Do you agree that the public's not involved in this or has been apathetic and not interested?
No, not at all. I think that was quite uncalled for. This has been a complex issue. It's boring. The ramifications aren't clear, but at the end of the day, what I did say during this meeting was that explaining is losing, and when you have to explain what things mean, it means that you haven't written succinctly what is on the table. What does this document mean? Or we have to go and explain it, and now that we're explaining it, well, we have to explain that there's other information that we haven't included. That's not good enough.
Also pleased with a period of further consultation on the uncalled share issue was second term councillor Ian Pottinger. Councillor Pottinger expressed concerns there was an indication the completion of the airport development may be delayed or even halted if councillors did not accept the second of the 2 uncalled share options.
I think we actually achieved a lot from our governance role. We identified flaws in the consultation process. Some of the information was omitted concerning forestry, and some of the information was actually incorrect, and that especially about the ability for council to loan money. It's quite funny that was definitely an option, and when you look at the Local Government Act, it speaks quite clearly that when you put a consultation document forward, you do, and they say the words were reasonably practicable is what they use. So the other issue was about the airport, and this was scaremongery that I thought is that if we didn't go for option 2, they said the airport would either stop, be scaled back or delayed. Now that's not true at all. Holdco have a legal contractual obligation. They've purchased shares of 13.5 million, so it has to be finished, and nothing. You can't put things in public consultation documents that put a slant on things, that if you don't do something, something's going to happen. That's not true.
Councillor Arnold's actually said that she felt the process had been unfair on councillors. Do you agree with that as far as consultation or information goes?
Well, the document alone is a very important document, and it was supplied to us that afternoon of the meeting, and some councillors who weren't by their emails actually were given at the meeting, and how are we supposed to read it, evaluate it, look at all the different sides of it, and make a decision on it that day for it to go out.
This is over the consultation
This
process.
is the actual document itself, and this is where several flaws have appeared, plus the statement, the public statement in the newspaper by the chair of Holdco about the increased investment in forestry, and there's nothing mentioned at all in the consultation document. In fact, the document was quite specific in where the money was going, and then the statement in the paper on the 7th of October said that this is why the uncalled shares were being done, so we can invest in opportunities like forestry. That was left out. So we either needed to correct that statement and say, sorry public, no forestry, or say yes, that could be a possibility. So we need to include that information, but we are going out for reconsultation again, or extended consultation. That is basically the result of this meeting.
Around 120 farmers are being interviewed across the Southland region this week as part of Dairy NZ's investigation into killer swede crops. The interviews follow a comprehensive survey that over 400 farmers responded to. Farmers will be interviewed on topics such as their farm management style, cropping and fertiliser history and climatic growing conditions this season. Along with farmer interviews, Dairy NZ's study into the Swedes issue has a testing program covering animals and plants with control samples collected from crops taken across a number of uninfected Swede varieties and animals. Initial results from animal testing are expected by the end of October, with full findings available in March next year. Do stay with us after the break. How gay tourists rate New Zealand and how the Chinese rate our sheep. Welcome back. There were less visitor arrivals from China and more from the United States and Australia last month. According to the latest figures from Statistics New Zealand, there was just a 1% increase in visitor numbers last month compared to September 2013. In the September 2014 year, 2.8 million visitors arrived in New Zealand. That's a 5% annual increase on the year before. The record net inflow of migrants continues, with 4,700 more arrivals than departures in September. This equals the highest ever net gains recorded in August this year and February 2003. In the September 2014 year, New Zealand recorded its highest ever net gain of 45,400 migrants. And New Zealand has scored well with gay and lesbian international travellers, according to travel guide Lonely Planet. New Zealand is seen as one of the most progressive, inclusive and accepting visitor destinations for the gay community. New Zealand got praised for actively promoting same-sex marriage tourism to Australia and other Pacific nations, where equality laws are said to be less progressive. The country's sheep shearing industry also came in for praise, and its accessibility to tourists scored 7th place on the most sheepish encounters in the Chinese Year of the Sheep. Invercargill retailers will have an opportunity to put the history of their industry on display as part of next year's Heritage South month-long celebrations. One Invercargill retailer is relishing the idea of dressing not only her staff but also her shop in costume, and says the concept is a great way to get people into the city to learn about historic buildings and retail trade.
Well, of course, dealing with flowers, I mean, it dates way back. So, yeah, we've sort of got a multitude of decades that we could showcase, but we're thinking along the lines of maybe there's 50s and 60s at the moment, sort of showcasing the way flowers would have been presented and wrapped in those times, and of course we want to sort of dress up as well into that era. And yeah, if there's something we can do with the front of our shop as well, we're thinking maybe an old bike or old car or something like that parked out the front, maybe adorned with flowers. We're we're brainstorming at the moment, so we've got lots of ideas. So
a little bit of research to do. The actual building that you're in, there's some history with that too that you're wanting to uncover as well.
Yes, well, I understand it used to be an old hotel. We've actually got a huge basement under our shop that we've been down, and it goes right out to the road front, and apparently that's where they used to store the alcohol. So yeah, it sort of prompted us to maybe we sort of want to learn a bit more about the building, and if there's some way we can incorporate that into it as well, we'd love to, just so that people, have an understanding of what it used to be.
Are they also looking at the way that people shopped back then? Used to be a few late nights and things as well.
Yeah, well, they're hoping it's going to run for a week, and with the retailers on board, hoping to bring back the late night Friday. So, hoping all the retailers will be open till 8 o'clock, with activities going on in the city, and obviously with the shops being open, maybe each retailer doing something special for that night, sort of bringing back the late night Fridays. Because I remember those from a kid; it was sort of a big deal to come into town on a Friday night.
Have you talked to other retailers who may be getting on board with this?
Yeah, well, it's in the early stages, but I have talked to other retailers. We've got a sort of a CBD retailers organisation going on at the moment with meetings, and so we're bringing it to that. But the ones I've spoken to are really excited about it. Of course, a lot of us are in older buildings, and so yeah, just learning the history of the buildings and also for different industries as well. Maybe they can bring something out from the past.
They've left it open to pick whatever decade works best for the operator.
Yeah, that's right. So I think there's going to be lots of variation, which will keep it really interesting. So yeah, you're not just looking at one particular period, you'll be looking at several different ones, which will make it quite exciting for everyone, because I'm sure different people will relate to different periods.
There will be a new concrete floor laid at the Invercargill Waste Transfer Station over Labour Weekend, so only green waste will be accepted. Invercargill City Council Senior Waste Minimisation Officer Donna Peterson says that Labour Weekend was chosen for installation of the new concrete floor following discussion with contractors and key customers. It was the first time since the transfer station opened over 15 years ago that the concrete floor has required replacement. The non-green waste disposal facility will be closed on Friday, the 24th, until the following Tuesday, the 28th. Coming up after the weather next is sport from the news team. It's good night.